Hello and welcome back to Steve's Retro Loft. Today's a bit of an update from my sort of Spectrum programming episodes and see how far I got. Well, put that down. I managed to write a program which was sort of this big. To be fair, that's not all of it because there's a fair amount of data which I've sort of truncated because I didn't want to waste reams and reams of, well, rolls and rolls of paper. But yeah, let's have a look and see how far I've managed to go. So I'm not a programmer. I don't pretend to be a proper programmer. But I thought I'd have a go and see if I could take something and, you know, create a game out of it. And yeah, here it is behind. Let's see how I got this far. Welcome to my first proper program. It's called the 5-letter word game. Yes, not to be confused with any other type of word game. Some brief instructions there, but I'll leave them on the screen so you can read them. And I'll press a key to start. This is a slightly abridged version. It's the amount of words are around about 2,500 or 2,300 and something. So this is a slightly modified version, which has only got 200 words, or it will only check 200 words in the list. I do have a couple of versions of it. This one is 922 words you can search. Then the full version is about 2,339, but for the sake of a video and so I don't wait that long and starting up, this is the slightly simpler version. Anyway, so most of these words, because it's only 200, is probably going to be A, B, C, D, round about that sort of start with that. So I'll start with basic, and why not? You can see it's a little bit slow on this bit when it looks at the use letters, but it seems to work okay. There's a lot of looping, but I'll show you that later. Yay! That was quite lucky. Managed to guess the word relatively quickly. Right. I think you know how the basic game works, so I could play again, or I could quit, and we'll have a look and see how we got here. So first off, the plan and how it all works. I suppose, I say because I'm not a proper programmer, every great program starts with a great idea, and if you can't think of a great idea, possibly borrow it from somebody else. Yeah, because that's how the early days of computer games seemed to work. The amount of Space Invaders clones and Pac-Man clones that were available in the early 80s. It's quite surprising that not many of these sort of software houses got sued. But anyway, moving on. So let's have a look, and this was my plan. So obviously the idea is take this popular word game and sort of recreate it for the Spectrum. So yeah, so you then have to break it down into, so there's a random 5-letter word from a word list. You got 6 attempts to work it out, and then you move on. So how does this work? So you have a guess, it checks if it's a word. In this case I've skipped that section because I didn't want to slow it down anymore because it's got a database of, you know, certainly the intention was originally to have a greater number than I started with. I started off with about 10, which is the section on which I'll show on screen in a minute will show you. But then when you suddenly scale up to 100, 200, 300, 400 to a couple of thousand, when you check that word, it would probably take a long time to go through. As I said, I'm not entirely sure if there's a quicker way of doing this. But that said, yeah, it's something I can work on once I've got a little bit more established. So, if I skip that section, yeah, which is a bit of a cheat, but yeah, there we go. I've skipped it. It's my decision, and it's what makes my game slightly different. Honest. So, the next step is it checks the letters. So it will then check the letters and it will display it's either in the correct place or the correct letter. Then, as a subsequent step, it will then mark in a separate little QWERTY layout the keys that have been used. And yeah, obviously you just go through it, and that iteration will go through 6 attempts. And if you're successful, you get redirected to the winner page. So yeah, it's quite simple. So let's move on to the actual data and how I got it to work. Now this is something I've never really dealt with before. I used the data command for the user definable graphics when I put those little chess pieces on a box on the screen, but other than that I've not really dealt with data. So I wanted to just see how it would work. So obviously this is a very simple program. It reads data and then it prints it. So yeah, lots of 5-letter words. So obviously you're not going to make a game out of that. So the next step was to just expand on that. So obviously I can print the data on the screen. But yeah, it's the actual element of the game needs to be put in. So this is very quite simple here. I'll just list it so you can see. Then I've got the data there. Then I've got the for next loop to sort of generate a word list. And yeah. And it's very basic at the moment. So what this will do, now what I've done there at the moment, I put this stuff on the screen. I've displayed what words it was selecting on the screen just as a test for me. So if I put the word pound in, that's not going to be there. But I think the last one that came up was ideal. Yeah. So at this moment in time, there's no checking of words. There's no nothing. It was just a process to see, can I get the word to display, a winner. That the whole idea of the thing being in brackets was just to make it look a bit better. It's not great. So let's move on to the next step. So the next step was to expand on the checking of the words. So it's a slightly bigger program there, and yeah, I'll put some rem statements in so I knew where things were. Yeah, this is where I may have started to overcomplicate things. There's lots and lots of checking here. Say if G string equals W, G string W equals W string W, then print, yeah. And what that should do is that should print if the word is correct or the letters are correct. So if I just run this program again. Now, again, the test thing at the top of the screen is there, so I know the word is trick. So I can, if I wanted to, I'm just going to make up a word, because there's no error checking. Icky. At least what that would do, that should place some words as correct letters in place. So there they are, but for some reason the first character isn't showing, which is yeah, a bit annoying. So let's have a look. Go for brick. So obviously now it's showing that the green letters they're correct. But again, the B isn't working for some reason. I don't particularly know why at the time, but then it's a bit of chasing around and finding these things, and eventually I did solve it. As you can see now, I've got the used letters on the screen, which is better. So yeah. And so one of the advantages of not having a word check is you can just enter any old stuff and it'll be accepted as a word, which is great. So if you want to know, you wanted to work out where things are, you could just put all the vowels in to go, oh, are you using any vowels? Which is quite handy. I don't particularly know why some of the words that aren't being used are being highlighted, but again, this is a very early version of it, so obviously to get the right result. Yay! And once you've won, it stops. So I move on to the next step. Now this is where it gets all dark and moody. I've decided to go for black text. So, and a bit of colour on the screen. So helpy. Also, what I introduced at this point was an X, so you can quit the game. Now, next step was importing a big dictionary. Now, the difficulty with that is I didn't want to type 2,339 words in, because that would have took a bit of time. So I cheated somewhat, sort of. It's not a cheat; it's a bit of a sort of a programming hack. So what I did to get around this was to copy and paste the words from a website. I found a website that listed all the words that were possibly used in this this popular word game, and then paste them into VS Codium, and then I could then create a data line for each of the sort of letters. Now some of them are longer than others, as you can see, and I think the longest one out of all of them, a lot of C's there. The most numbers, or the biggest numbers, were on the letter S. So yeah, there we go. I have done an abridged version as well, which yeah, for testing really. So you can have a slightly smaller version of the game. So it's 922, because then it takes about a minute and a half to go through those. If I go for the normal word list, yeah, then it takes a lot longer to actually load. Once I've got this list created, then I have to use this program called ZMakeBass to create an output file. So if I, oh, there we go. If I do words abridged, and what that does, that creates a tap file. Now, so we'll look at that tap file. There you go. This is the abridged version. And it's just all there, so it saves me typing a lot of this stuff in. Then the next step would be to save this as a TZX file, and then merge it with the main game file. So once you've got that, you've got all the data within the game. Once I was at this point, I was quite happy that the game was everything I wanted it to be. There's a slight bug in the game, as I said. Well, not a bug, it's a feature. Mainly because I hadn't got around to programming this. If you select a word with, if you get a word with multiple letters, say you put teeth in, and the word that you're trying to find has only got one E, it will show the E in teeth, the two E's, as correct, or not correct placements, but it'll show them as correct words. Yeah, it's something I'll probably will sort out in a later version. It's just one of those things I forgot to do. But yeah, there you go. It makes the game slightly different. So yeah, so it's not a direct copy of the original. Anyway, what I wanted to do, once I got the main game sorted, was to do some user definable graphics. As you can see there, there's the box which comes around the letters when you guess them. It's there. So and I've done user definable graphics before in one of my earlier basic episodes, but this one was had to be done slightly different. But because previously when I'd done the user definable graphics, they were done using sort of the data commands. Now the problem with that is I've got quite a lot of data for the words, and so it was getting sort of mixed up with that, and it seemed to break it. So what I did here, I used pokes. Now there's actually I think 8 or 9 characters which I needed to use. Now I could have done a poke for every single line, but I thought some for next loops are quite simple. So initially the first for next loop wipes all the user definable characters from that range. So so I think there's 9, yeah, so 0 to 71, 72 bytes. So that should be 9 characters. Because if you don't do that, you'll get like a line, and then there'll be like a capital A underneath it, for example, for the first one. So what I did, I decided that because a lot of the characters, certainly the first 3 characters and the second 3 characters have unique properties to them. It's like the first line, or the first line on all the 8 pixels is a solid line. So I could use a sort of for next loop to do that, and then all I had to do is for the straight line is just do one poke to do that. I did that for the next 3 as well. So if the things where the straight line is on the left, I did first, and then the straight line on the right did second. And then the other 2 lines are just a straight line at the top and a straight line at the bottom. I'll just move down a little bit for that. So you can see the straight line at the top on F and G. If I put my mouse there, around there, and G. And then I wanted some sort of dotted line for the instructions to make things look a bit better. But yeah, so it was a fairly straightforward thing to do, but it just makes the game look a little bit better. One of the complications I had with data initially was the sort of QWERTY keyboard. Originally I had ABC all the way to Z just in a line. I thought, well, it looks a bit rubbish. It'd be nice to have a proper QWERTY keyboard looking there. So I had to set up the data. Now, as I said, I might have, because I'm quite new to this programming lark, I might have got this sort of all over the place. But yeah, initially what I did, I've created a dimension of string here. So it's a string is actually 4 by 26. So the first entry is the alphabet. Or so the layout of the QWERTY keyboard. Now the second option, which I've not specified here, that comes in a little bit later. But number 2 is effectively the sort of keyboard placements, so or the line placements. So you, obviously anything on the QWERTY line is line 1, the ASD line is line 2, and the ZX line is line 3. Now the following line, line 4, is also where they are positioned on the screen. So I used a print at command to read a value for that particular line, and it sort of places it in the right place. So yeah, that worked out I think reasonably well. What the A string 2 line would do, it's not here, it's flagged later on, and if there's a 1 in there, then that means that letter has been chosen. So therefore it sort of deletes it from the sort of QWERTY keyboard, or in my case just highlights it as cyan. So yeah, that was one of the more challenging things I had to do, but on the whole it seemed to work out quite well. So there we go, that was my first attempt at a proper computer program. I think it's been okay. I mean, there's 1 or 2 issues with it. I mean, it's a little bit slow in places, and what I might try and do is over the next few weeks or months is see if I can speed the code up a little bit and maybe make some improvements. One of the areas I'd like to improve is actually the data inputting. I know you can import or load data arrays in from tape into memory, so that might be something to consider, because I think that's probably where some of the slowdown is. But yeah, there we go. That's it's in early days, and yeah, I'll see what improvements I can make, and I'll try not to concentrate too much on the graphical improvements, because yeah, that's typical of what I tend to do is get a basic program, or get a base of a program sort of written, and then just start going off on one and making it look nice. Yes, you could see my C programming pseudo-random lottery number generator for details. Yeah, worked fine as an MS-DOS looking program, but then I decided to make it look all fancy. But yeah, anyway, that's me being sidetracked. What I will do is I'll put a link in below to information where you can actually get a copy of this game if you want to. It should be on my GitHub page, providing that still works. What I wanted to try and do is I wanted to try and extract all the code, because obviously I managed to print it off, and yeah, that looks very nice. Doesn't work so well on camera, but what I wanted to try and do is sort of export it as a text file, and I haven't figured out how to do that. But yeah, if anybody wants to do that for me, just pin it in the comments and let me know. I'm sure there's various different ways of doing it. I tried 1 or 2. I tried to save it as a particular type of file on my Next, and then try and import it there, but that didn't work. I think it's the BAS files on a Next are different from the BAS files which I create on sort of VS Codium, which makes sense really. The BAS file on the Next I think contains more binary stuff than text. But anyway, I've gone off on one now. If you like what I do, please like, comment and subscribe, and click the bell icon so you get notified next time one of these videos drops. But until next time, I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.